Welcome back, Pokemon trainers, for our second match of Saturday's broadcast of the Victory Road World Cup, sponsored by the amazing Elgato. Unfortunately, our little Elgato on the mic is being a little bit grumpy, but we have traded out for Sierra, who will be bringing the joy to the stream where Gimli is not, unfortunately.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here, especially after watching that first match. So being able to join you behind the mic to commentate over the second one, I'm just pumped. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's our first time commentating together as well, so it's really nice to have this opportunity with this event to be able to do so. And we certainly have a very exciting match coming up for you next. It's going to be the United States versus Ireland. So if we just take a look at kind of how the group stage is at the moment for this particular area, we've also got Guatemala and Malaysia in this particular group, which is Group 8. And it's going to be interesting to see how these matches kind of come down against each other. I know going into the tournament, when we had the initial pool stages, the United States was certainly one of the teams kind of picked to watch. So I'm sure still going to be some hot contenders in this particular group.
Oh, 100%. And United States, I mean, such a strong roster of players. It's one of those teams you don't really want to get pitted against. So Ireland definitely has their work cut out for them. But that means that everyone's going to be working hard to be bringing the proper teams to be beating this team of players, which, I mean, it's just going to make it a super exciting match for us.
It certainly will be, and I was lucky enough to play for Ireland in the Euro Cup previously, and they're certainly a team with a lot of players who really are dedicated. So coming into this particular matchup, I know they'll have put in some hard work, as will have the United States. And you can take a look at how the group stage is already working out in just this first week here. There's only been one match played, and the United States were victorious, with Jeremy Rodriguez getting victory over Jonas here. But some interesting matchups coming in. I can see the Grimsnarl making an appearance back into the fray, as well as, I've got to mention it, Sierra, there's a Regieleki on Jeremy's team.
I know that you're eyeing up that Regieleki, and of course Regielecki's so strong. I'm looking at the Gyarados. Jonas, I think that's so cool, but it's not something that's going to fare up too well against your Regieleki, but definitely looks like some fantastic teams. And I mean, the fact that it goes to a 2-1-2, just two players with a fantastic matchup, so unfortunately we weren't able to get it, but I mean, that just means United States is going to be taking this in a little bit of an early lead, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on this next match for Ireland to try and even the score.
Yeah, and the match we're going to be focusing on is the one on the bottom of that list there, with Joseph Ugarte versus Brian Collins. So I'm looking forward to seeing what teams our players are bringing. We can first check out Brian's, though.
Yeah, so this looks like a super fun team. So Palkia, I don't feel like we see Palkia enough, but that is the restricted that Brian is going to be going for. And to round that out, going to be an Incineroar and a Moongus, very common staples on these teams, fantastic support, but a Zapdos as well, which I haven't seen too much of since we've been heading into a non-Dynamax format. And it's all going to be rounded out with a Landorus and a Stakataka. And I love so many different components of this team, and I'm really interested to see how it's piloted.
Yeah, exactly. Loving seeing the Palkia. Again, I think I talked about this a little bit with Gabby in the first match, that it's a Pokemon that I think has been a little bit slept on. So it's going to be interesting to see how Brian's going to be able to bring this. And obviously, having Pokemon like the Incineroar and the Amoonguss that are great supportive Pokemon, I think could really enable that Palkia to shine. If we flip it over to the United States for Joseph's team, though, we'll see what Brian is up against. And again, loving one of the niche picks on this team. Please don't come for me, but I love Shedinja on teams because I feel like it's one of those picks that if you haven't prepared for it, it is going to run through your team. And I think sometimes it can be very, very clever to have that on your team in a tournament like this. If you call it right in the matchup, then you're just going to be victorious.
Oh, of course. And that's such a fun niche pick. But the rest of the team, not so niche, as Kyogre has really been a standout in Series 10. I mean, being able to go for those huge water spouts next to things like Tailwind or just other fast things on the team like Regieleki, being able to get that speed control with the Electro Web as well. Cisterina is so fantastic for stopping any priority. But Kyogre is going to have a little bit of issues in this matchup. It does so well against so many things, but Palkia is just not really one of them.
No, exactly. And, Palkia's going to have to watch out for Pokemon like the Regieleki here. Also, this team's very reminiscent of Santino's Invitational winning team, and that Serena certainly can put in some work against priorities such as the Incineroar on the opposing side of the field. So Incineroar may not be having the time of its life here, particularly when you look at kind of the weather matchup here. The Kyogre's going to be getting the rain on the field. Incineroar's not going to be able to go for those fire type attacks that, Pokemon like the Weavile there isn't going to want to take, the Serena's not going to want to take that, but at the same time, Pokemon like Landorus going to be able to come into the fray and apply pressure to. Pokemon like the Regieleki can also go for some rock type moves, and something like the Weavile or the Tornadus there as well can apply some really good pressure. But it's going to be interesting to see how the leads could possibly determine this game one.
Oh, for sure. I feel like Kyogre, there's the standard leads with the Kyogre, but you can swap it up so you can start positioning stuff in a better way. So to lead here, it is actually just going to be that Kyogre. So go in for that early pressure right away. Going to be paired next to that Weavile. That fast fake out pressure is certainly always nice. And it's going to be facing off against the Palkia. So getting both of those restrictions out here right out of the gate next to that Amoonguss for support.
Yeah, exactly. You can see pressure coming out onto the field here from both the Weavile and the Palkia here. So those move numbers are going to have to be calculated. But interestingly enough here, the Amoonguss, it can go for some potential redirection, but I think the pivotal Pokemon here is going to be that Weavile, having that fake out utility. Whether you want to go into the Palkia and stop it going for some big damage into your Kyogre, because there isn't a lot other than maybe something like a Thunder that the Palkia can really do, that the Kyogre can really do to the Palkia. So Amoonguss being able to redirect that away would be helpful for Brian here to be able to redirect that away from the Palkia, but at the same time, you don't want to, allow that Palkia to deal big damage. So the fake out could be critical here. It is just going to be a protect though from Palkia.
Amoonguss also going for that protect, so Brian not wanting to get any of the Pokemon hit with this fake out. The fake out coming out though, instead that Kyogre is going to go for the Thunder right out of the gate and triple axle, both targeting into this Palkia. So Joseph not really wanting to deal with this restricted at all and looking to try and get rid of it. But of course, that will protect means nothing's going to be happening this turn, and Brian now having that information going into this next turn.
Yeah, and I think that was a really nice play there from Brian. It just burns out that fake out, and now that you have something like the Rage Powder to redirect things like that Thunder away, does allow Palkia to be in a greater spot. You do of course have to watch out for that triple axle though. Amoonguss is not going to appreciate that, particularly if Weavile is able to find its mark. If it's holding something like the wide lens that we've seen before, it's going to be able to try and connect all three of those and try and remove Amoonguss from the fray. Joseph actually just switching out that Kyogre, possibly indicative of the item on there, just wanting to reset it, as Thunder isn't going to do too much to Amoonguss.
Yeah, choice item super common on the Kyogre. So being able to swap it out means it can reset for later, but Amoonguss is going to be taking that full force of the triple axle and is not going to be able to stand up to that, as the 3 hits is going to be enough to secure that KO. And I mean, that's a getting that Pokemon lead, fantastic, but as well being able to get rid of the Amoonguss. But in return, losing Amoonguss means that Palkia is going to be able to set up that Trick Room, and Kyogre being a speedy team is not really going to appreciate that quite as much.
Yeah, certainly, particularly if it is something like a Choice Scarf on that Kyogre. Trick Room is an environment it doesn't want to be in, for sure. Weavile as well, being very fast, isn't going to appreciate this. Incineroar coming in here I think is really nice. You throw down the Intimidate against both of these sort of known physical attackers, so it does just give you a slight advantage here. But of course, with the rain being up, the one thing Incineroar wants to be able to do in this particular kind of setup here is going for those fire type moves, but it's going to be unable to deal the damage impact with the rain out on the field. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Incineroar maybe going for something else in terms of going for a fake out or a parting shot to just try and catch a switch in. But we're actually going to see that Shedinja join the field here for Joseph.
Shedinja coming out, so fun, but right away spells danger as Incineroar is revealing to have the Will-O-Wisp hitting into the Tisserina, but that's not something that Shedinja is going to appreciate at all either. So that's good information to have going forward. Tisserina just looking to pivot out there, a little bit of chip into the Palkia, but more importantly, that pivot into something else, and it is going to be the Kyogre coming out here. Palkia firing back with a Hydro Pump, but of course, Wonder Guard, that's not doing anything this time around.
Yeah, the Shedinja switch in here, really, really nice. Wonder Guard obviously allowing the Shedinja to only be damaged by super effective moves. In this case, it's Flying, Rock, Ghost, Fire, and Dark type moves. One thing that's going to be really interesting though, we have seen on some occasions having something like a Scarf Soak onto a Shedinja can then really change things up. In Trick Room, probably not going to be happening here, but you never know. Kyogre could possibly survive moves out from Incineroar and Palkia and go for that, even if it is super duper slow, and that would mean that the Shedinja is going to be a little bit more protected. But instead, the Incineroar is probably likely going to want to try and broke its Focus Sash with something like a Flare Blitz, but instead goes for the parting shot onto that Kyogre, weakening the offensive pressure that it can bring.
Yeah, as well, the parting shot Makes it so Brian can't pivot out. Obviously, this Incineroar would not appreciate attack from the Kyogre at all. And Brian's going to be pivoting into the Zapdos here. Spatial Randa coming out from the Palkia just to target into that Kyogre, dealing a really good amount of damage. No Water Spout though, I mean smart, the more damage you take, the less it's going to do. So instead, going to lock into Scald, dealing about half to Zapdos as well.
This was a really nice play here by Brian. Being able to get the parting shot down onto the Kyogre weakens the pressure that it has in that rain. And you can see even at -1, in the rain, that Scald does a huge chunk to Zapdos. It's going to be able to pick up a 2-hit KO against it. So although Zapdos has joined the field, it needs to be really careful at this stage. It can, of course, apply a lot of offensive pressure to something like the Kyogre, but we know with the Pokemon in the back, something like Serena coming in, is it going to worry taking one of those potential sort of electric-type moves? And particularly with Serena having Burn, then this is a Pokemon that Joseph can actually switch into Sack if potentially needed, just to preserve some of the other Pokemon for when Trick Room is over. Shedinja is going to go for the Poltergeist here into that Palkia.
Of course, dealing a good amount of chip, which you would like, it's just a little bug, but that amount of chip, everything's going to be adding up. The Serena on the swap in though is going to take a good chunk of damage. Of course, being doubled into, it takes the first hit pretty well, but is not going to take the Hurricane well at all, and is going to be taken down. But it does keep at least Kyogre safe, and it's just Serena being burned wasn't really doing too much anyways at this point.
Yeah, I really like this play here from Brian. If the Kyogre had stayed in, the Spatial Rend and the Hurricane, obviously guaranteed to hit in the rain, would have been able to pick up the KO against it, but it also did cover for that potential Serena switch in, being able to just remove it from play. Joseph, however, now has the opportunity to bring in that Weavile, just go for that fake out. And the one thing that I see that Brian is doing is targeting down that partner Pokemon to the Shedinja. Knowing that you've got the Incineroar safely in the back, you're going to be able to go for those Flare Blitzes and deal with it towards the end game here. And again, having the utility here to switch it in, go for that Intimidate against the Weavile is going to help out both these Pokemon as well. Neither the Palkia or particularly the Zapdos here really wants to be taking any triple axles at this stage, particularly with HP being chipped away against them. Triple axles, if it's going to find its mark on those 3, we saw how devastating it was to that Amoonguss. Brian doesn't want his Pokemon to take any damage from them at all.
Oh, of course not. And of course, targeting into the partner Pokemon for the Shedinja. If you have a way to be dealing with it, like Shedinja really shines when everything that can deal with it is taken out. But when there's so many Pokemon that have a way to be dealing with it on Brian's end, it's not really just offering too much. We saw how much Poltergeist was doing. The swap out here into Incineroar though, going to eat a potential fake out as well, getting the Intimidate out into the file. And offering the fake out pressure for next turn, as Palkia is just going to be going for the Protect. Of course, fake out just gonna hit into the Protect this time around, and Inner Smack going to be coming into the Incineroar, which is going to take that so well.
Yeah, I love the animation from that. Like you said, it's just a little bug, but it's lowering the special attack. Incineroar's not going to worry about that too much, but it is a little bit of chip damage. And again, I like Brian making sure to preserve the Pokemon that can hit that Shedinja with the Hurricane on that Zapdos as well. As long as it can find its mark, then it's going to be able to deal with the Shedinja going forward if Incineroar's not able to do the job. And having Incineroar here on the field, going to be able to go for something like a Flare Blitz now that the rain has gone into that opposing Weavile would have been optimal. But Kyogre coming onto the field, going to reset that rain back up and apply some good pressure to that Incineroar going forward here. Possibly Incineroar wants to get in on out of there, but actually goes straight for the fake out.
And the rain disappears and then comes right back as it joins the field. And Shedinja just going for that bit more of chip damage into the Palkia. But Palkia in the opportunity to just set up that Trick Room. I mean, that's a place where it's going to be shining in this match, of course, against this Kyogre. So being able to set that up and still have the Palkia, it's getting lower, it's getting chipped down, but still has enough in the tank to try and deal some damage back out.
Yeah, really nice to get a second Trick Room in this particular game, particularly with the fast mode that Joseph has brought to this particular match. It does just put Brian right back into the driving seat here. Something like the Spatial Rend's going to deal a huge chunk of that Kyogre. I believe it might even be able to pick up the KO against it, leaving the Incineroar free to, if Brian wants to, start dealing with that Shedinja a little bit. At least get the Focus Sash broken on it, so that one more move is just going to be able to pick up the KO against it. And even with something like the Kyogre maybe wanting to switch out for that Weavile in the back, it's not going to want to take either a Flare Blitz or a Spatial Rend, even in the rain at this point.
Of course, and here we see the Flare Blitz going into Shedinja, wanting to just like you said, get the Sash broken, start putting it in a position where it can be dealt with. Another hit into the Palkia, bringing it down real low. Not quite enough, of course, to be picking it out. It's not doing too much damage. Palkia does, of course, get Kyogre, but doesn't quite pick up that KO there. Kyogre just hanging on, which means he's going to get the chance to fire back with a Scald, doing a heaps more damage and going to be taking out the Incineroar.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Trick Room actually kind of benefiting the Shedinja here because it's able to go for that Skittle Smack, bring the special attack down one, and kind of weakening the pressure that Spatial Rend can have onto that opposing Kyogre. Absolutely brilliant play there from the Shedinja, and Zapdos coming into the fray here now. Brian has to watch out because I don't believe that the Palkia has a way to touch this Shedinja. It really does come to Zapdos with that Hurricane. Obviously, it's raining. Hurricane's going to be able to find its mark. But, you know, Palkia cannot pick up the KO against the Kyogre, but Joseph does have the utility to switch in something like the Weavile. If it's able to survive, burn a turn of Trick Room with another Fake Out here, it could get very interesting towards this endgame. But I think if you're Brian, you have to get rid of this Shedinja right now. Again, if you're Joseph, you can possibly switch out the Shedinja, bring in that Weavile, sack it, maybe try and get Kyogre to deal with the Zapdos. But then again, Kyogre's going to be moving last in this situation. But Palkia actually going for a Protect.
And not wanting to lose the Palkia to this Skittle Smack, which was the target. So Palkia is going to be able to hang on, and Hurricane, of course, going to be able to at least deal with this pesky bug. So Brian able to bring this to but Scald going to target into the Zapdos and going to take it out. So it is going to be the two big bad restrictions against each other, but Joseph with the Pokemon advantage, as he does have another one in the tank, and Brian's unfortunately down to his last Pokemon as Weavile joins the field.
Yeah, this looks like a really nice situation here for Joseph because these Trick Room turns are going to keep going through. The Weavile here can just go for a Fake Out, burn another turn, and Palkia only has single target moves. So knowing that your Pokemon are both going to be able to survive here with the Fake Out, then no matter who Palkia decides to target, that low HP on Palkia is going to be enough to pick up the KO against it. But instead of, you know, getting that double protect here, the Fake Out is enough, meaning that Joseph is going to be winning game one here in United States versus Ireland.
I mean, that was a fantastic match, and we kept talking about the fantastic plays that Brian was making at the beginning of the game, but Joseph really able to just start slowly gaining that momentum and putting himself in a favorable position to be taking down Palkia. And I mean, Kyogre being able to go for those Scalds, it's not doing too much to the Palkia at any point, but being able to deal with everything else next to the Palkia as the Palkia was slowly chipped down by that Shedinja was absolutely fantastic. And for something that's not a fantastic matchup, being able to get up a game against it is fantastic.
Yeah, that Kyogre survival, thanks to the Skittle Smack, I think was absolutely pivotal there for Joe. Being able to keep that Kyogre alive really did kind of put him in that endgame situation that he wanted. I think for Brian, although we were saying kind of target down that partner Pokemon to the Shedinja, you can deal with the Shedinja later. Unfortunately, that just wasn't the case for Brian. The Shedinja, I think, needs to be dealt with that a little bit earlier because if you run out of the utility Pokemon that you need to be able to KO it, then you're really limited and forced into targeting it down before your remaining Pokemon that can deal with Shedinja actually does get KO, which we saw happen with that Zapdos towards the end of that game. I think ultimately Shedinja is going to be the pivotal Pokemon for Joe here again. I would not be surprised to see him bring it in game 2.
Of course not, but seeing as Brian did not take the win in the first game, there's going to be some adjustments out, and there's going to be adjustment on Joe's end too. The Weavile is going to be leading first this time around, but instead going to be bringing that Tornadus, and it is going to be Palkia Amoonguss to lead on Brian's end.
Yeah, Palkia Amoonguss out here once again. Again, Palkia can, deal some good damage out here on the field at this stage, but it looks like Brian's going to be wanting to get that Trick Room set up once again. Amoonguss did go down very early in Game 1 thanks to the Triple Axle, so I think switching in a Pokemon like the Incineroar here would be great. Not only do you throw down that Intimidate, it's going to be able to take the Triple Axles much better, and then can apply Fake Out Pressure in that next turn. Interestingly enough, though, the Tornadus is the Pokemon I've got my eye on at the moment. If it is running something like Taunt, we haven't been able to see kind of the utility of this Tornadus, then Taunt's going to be able to shut down the potential Trick Room from that Palkia, and that's something that Brian really wants to get up. We saw how hard committed the Trick Room was in that Game 1. Being able to get 2 up was phenomenal, but whether you can get 1 up in the face of this Tornadus could really change how this game is going to go for Brian.
Oh, certainly. But at least Incineroar hitting the field with the potential for the fake out pressure next turn is going to help in that case. And Palkia, of course, going for the protect, not wanting to risk getting faked out of its own. You don't want to take any unnecessary damage. Triple Axel is actually going to straight target into that again this turn around. And a double target is Hurricane is going to be coming out from the turn. So not just kind of hitting into that slot. You know, if Palkia is unprotected, you get that damage, or if it swaps, you hit whatever's coming in.
Yeah, this is a nice position here for Brian. You have that fake out utility to go down into the tornadoes so that it allows you to set up the Trick Room a little bit safer with your Palkia. And of course, the Intimidate just going to stop the Triple Axis from dealing as much damage with that Weavile. Joseph actually going to go for a switch here, bringing the Kyogre here into the fray, going to be setting the Ray and reducing the offensive pressure of that Incineroar.
Of course, Incineroar, though, not looking to do too much pressure. Instead, with the fake out, of course, if there was a taunt or something on that Tornadus, not having the opportunity to do so. We don't know if it has it quite yet, but regardless, being faked out means that Palkia has that opportunity to get the first Trick Room set up and have the control heading in here as Kyogre's out here on the field, a little bit exposed.
Yeah, exactly. And I do apologize. I did say in game one I have a little bit of a cold and I think my throat is tickling me at the moment. So if I start coughing, I apologize for your ears listening to this broadcast. But looks like Incineroar's just going to go straight for the parting shot here. I think this is wise in Trick Room, just negating some of the damage that Kyogre can deal in this environment, particularly with the rain up.
As well, not wanting to risk a Scald going into that slot. You don't want to be losing your Incineroar. I mean, having that consistent pivot, it's not a Pokemon that you want to be going down, and Amoonguss is much better fared for that. Palkia just going to go with a huge Hydro Pump into this slot and just going to absolutely remove this Genie from the field. So Palkia really looking to be applying that pressure, and it is going to be Scald coming out from the Kyogre into the Amoonguss, and look how well that takes it. Kyogre's so strong, it's rain boosted, and Amoonguss simply just does not care.
Yeah, Amoonguss an absolute champ, and it's lovely to see Hydro Pump find that connect as well. Fun fact, back in my youth, I used to think that Hydro Pump was 100% accurate in rain. I can tell you, it is not. So a sigh of relief there for Brian to be able to find its mark and remove the Tornadus from the field in this situation. Joseph, however, does not have the opportunity to bring that Weavile back onto the field unintimidated. It can go for something like the Fake Out, or can immediately start pressuring with the triple axles here. Of course, Amoonguss is going to be a great partner Pokemon for Brian here, going to be able to either go for those Rage Powders and help the Palkia out a little bit here, particularly knowing that Kyogre cannot protect. But at the same time, if it goes for something like the Rage Powder, then the Weavile can easily go for those triple axles. Again, Weavile coming into the field can easily just go for a Fake Out. So it really does come down to where the Protects are going to fall in this game and where Fake Out is going to land.
And no Protect, so we don't have to predict that one. Instead, just going for the Fake Out. But Amoonguss being able to go back with the Spore, I mean, there's not too much things that are scarier than an Amoonguss in Trick Room being able to go for those sleeps. Kyogre going for just another Scald, still not doing too much damage. It is going to pick up the burn on the Amoonguss, though. I mean, not going to be changing its pollen puff damage, but at least going to be dealing that little bit extra of consistent chip.
Yeah, chip damage can be critical in games like this, particularly when Pokemon start to go to sleep as well, and that's exactly what we see from the Weavile, and something that Kyogre is going to be vulnerable to as well. Of course, Joseph does have, Serena on his team. If that possibly is in the back, it could always switch in the face of a potential Spore, but instead, we're going to see that Shedinja join the field. Now, this was the downfall for Brian, so I wonder if he's got a way to deal with it better in this game one, as the Spore connects onto the Kyogre.
Of course, this Kyogre is gonna just fall asleep here. That's the thing about these spores being accurate, but at least the Shedinja switch, as much as it sucks that the Kyogre is going to sleep, the Shedinja switch means that the partner Pokemon is going to be staying alive and putting the pressure on Brian to start dealing with this bug, because as much as it didn't deal too much damage, the consistent drops as well as that little bit of consistent chip damage was definitely big, and Brian just wasn't able to deal with it quite fast enough in that first game.
Yeah, exactly. And Palkia now free to go for some really good damage on that opposing Kyogre. I don't believe there's anything on the field at the moment that can touch that Shedinja, but Brian certainly does have utility in the back to be able to deal with that, with something like the Incineroar, to be able to go for obviously those Flare Blitzes into the Shedinja, and it's just going to go for a Protect in this turn as well.
Yeah, wanting to stay nice and safe, knowing that this is probably a Pokemon that can help him in the game, not wanting to risk absolutely anything here. Spatial Rend is going to come out, hitting into the Kyogre, dealing a hot amount of damage as Kyogre is going to just take another turn of sleep, which is not something you ever want your restricted to be doing any longer than it has to be. And with that, Rain is also going to be expiring.
Yeah, Trick Room. Yeah, Trick Room ends here, but this is where things can get interesting again for Brian. There's the possibility here to go for another Trick Room. You can just go for that Rage Powder with Amoonguss, so if Kyogre does wake up, then Amoonguss is going to be able to take the damage, and I believe Kyogre is locked into Skull, but actually we're just going to see the forfeit come out here, and it looks like Brian is evening the score.
Yeah, this is going to be a 1-1 to a game 3, and a really long, hard fought out game 1 is going to be a very different case for this game 2, as it's being packed in early to try and reset and go for this game 3, despite the fact there are still so many Pokemon. Just seeing that he wasn't really in a position to be taking this.
Yeah, exactly. And Kyogre going to sleep, I think, was really unfortunate there for Joseph. I mean, it's a little bit like our resident Elgato on the mic taking a little bit of a nap here at the moment. It's kind of channeling that Kyogre. And again, if you are Joe, you're going to want to be able to try and keep your Kyogre a little bit more awake, possibly have some kind of way to deal with that Amoonguss. We know that the Weavile was so great in game 1 with that triple axle, but unfortunately, Brian was able to pivot around it, get the Trick Room up, and then just be able to have that offensive pressure. So it doesn't look like Joe has many ways to really stop the Trick Room if Brian's able to protect and defend well from those fake outs, but possibly having Pokemon in play that are going to be able to deal with the offensive pressure that Brian has when Trick Room is up will be better. That Skittersmack we still do so well against that Palkia in game 1, but it looks like the Shedinja came in a little bit late in game 2, wasn't able to apply that pressure as well as it was in game 1.
Oh, 100%. And just the fact that the Kyogre can't really do too much to the Palkia, and the fact that these Pokemon aren't doing too well in Trick Room, this is certainly difficult, and something that Joe's really going to have to think about in this game 3, how he can set up to be either trying to deny this Trick Room somehow, or be able to just outlive and be able to deal with these Pokemon. So to start, it is going to be the Serena and the Weavile, which we haven't seen out on the field together yet. So different pairing from Joe's end, which is going to go against the same old Palkia and Amoonguss on Brian's.
I do love this adjustment here from Joe, because we have seen Serena in the past, particularly in a team composition very similar to this, running Taunt, and particularly when you're paired up with the Weavile that has that utility with Fake Out, you can apply pressure to that Palkia. Being Grass type as well means you don't have to worry too much about the Amoonguss. You can just target down into that Palkia with the Taunt, even if it wants to go for a double protect that Brian has opted to go for when there is Fake Out on the field. So it does put Joe in a great position to stop that Trick Room going forward. At the same time, Weavile can go for that fake out and then can still apply pressure with triple axle.
Oh, of course. But as we saw in the last game, the potential to be switching out into the Incineroar for the fake out to be able to have the Palkia set up freely is something to be wary of, and it is what we're going to see here as Amoonguss is going to go hide in the back and Incineroar joining the field. So it can either take a fake out from this Weavile or just be sitting here pretty for the next turn, as Palkia is just going to protect, not wanting to take absolutely anything. This Palkia is known for one thing and one thing only. It is a protect. Of course, going to be taking the triple axle and Power Whip coming out, so it was a double into that slot in case Brian decided to leave it exposed, but Brian not going to be falling for that this time around, knowing that this Palkia needs to stay nice and safe.
Yeah, I think this is something we've seen in games 1, 2, and 3 now in turn 0, where Brian protects the Palkia, and it looks like Joe has doubled into that slot on all 3 occasions. But wise from Brian, his go for that protect, switch up the ball position, bring in the Incineroar, the Intimidate, super nice, and having that fake out utility. This is where Palkia, could potentially set up the Trick Room, but Serena is in the way. With that Queenly Majesty, fake out is not going to be able to be utilized. So great positioning here from Joe, having that on the field, and even something like a Flare Blitz, Serena could possibly survive that, particularly if you want to bring in your Kyogre and set the rain. But no, we're just going to see a triple axle finally for Joe connect on that Palkia.
Picking up a good amount of damage into this Palkia here. Of course, it's going to take a little bit of a cool life orb, and the Power Whip coming out as well into it. Palkia just able to hold on, though, really showing how big that Intimidate was for the swap in. And Incineroar, of course, not being able to go for the fake out, goes for the Marine Shot into that slot, being able to just pivot out. But that was a big live from the Palkia there. I mean, being doubled into, never fantastic, but being able to survive is super, super clutch in this situation. Stakataka, I mean, we haven't really gotten to see what it gets to do yet, but finally hitting the field, and no better moment than for the Trick Room.
Exactly. Stack Attacker loves being in Trick Room. And certainly now, if you're Brian, you really need to find a way to kind of deal with this Serena at this point in time. It's going to be irritating the Incineroar, not being able to go for those fake outs. And it is going to obviously apply a lot of threatening pressure to the Palkia. Palkia is at very low HP at the minute, so to be honest, anything on Joseph's side of the field is going to threaten it. But if you could utilize the Stack Attacker, go for some Gyro Balls, maybe pick up some KOs and get those Beast Boosts rolling in the face of these two physical attackers as well. We often see the Stack Attack obviously get those defense beast boosts. It's going to be in a really formidable position, and if it's carrying Rock Slide, then Shedinja's going to have to watch out as well, and there we go.
Rock Slide coming out and is going to be connecting on both of the targets here. Critical hit on Serena as well, though it takes it pretty well. And I mean, this Shedinja swapping in to getting its sash broken, which is not that fantastic, but it does get to stick around. Serena going to U-turn out into the Amoonguss here, just looking to pivot, picks up a little bit of chip, but of course that Amoonguss swapping in for the Palkia means the Palkia does at least get to survive another day, and it's going to be the Weavile coming back out to be applying the pressure out on the field.
Yeah, having that fake out could kind of stop that Stack Attacker from doing what it wants to do in this environment, but at the same time, if you fake out and Stack Attack, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to a Spore. So I wouldn't be surprised to see possibly the Stack Attacker even go for a Protect here, just to protect itself, and then seeing the Spore go down, but instead just fake out and Stack Attacker.
Yeah, not wanting the Stack Attacker to go for those Rock Slides, though. As you said, the Spore is coming out, and the Weavile going to be taking a nap. And I mean, Spore was so strong in that last game here, and it just being given the opportunity to go for the same thing in Trick Room is just going to hurt. But speaking of hurt, that Poltergeist going to be bringing it down to about half here, but it's a really difficult situation. I mean, Stack Attack and Trick Room absolutely terrifying, and now this Weavile is asleep. Like, this is a tricky spot.
Yeah, this is a great spot if you're Brian, going for those Rock Slides, you know, being able to, as long as you connect, that is always the danger with Rock Slide. You're going to be able to remove the Shedinja from play, and anything that Joe brings in is going to have to take one of these Rock Slides, and as soon as well as the Stack Attack is able to get KOs, then it's going to be able to beast boost itself up.
Of course, one thing that can stop a Rock Slide, at least for one turn, is a Protect, as Shedinja is just going to stay nice and safe here. Does gotta connect onto Serena, though, and Shark bringing it down real low is going to live, but these Pokemon are not looking too fantastic.
No, they're certainly not. And one thing as well that Serena has to watch out from is potential Pollen Puff coming its way from the Amoonguss, because we know that Rock Slide can miss, and that would be really unfortunate for the Stack Attacker in this situation. It doesn't want to take a potential Power Whip from that Serena if it's able to dodge out of the way of a Rock Slide. So having that Pollen Puff will just be able to kind of guarantee up a KO here. But at the same time, if you're Brian, it could be an opportunity to go for a switch here. Maybe bring in that Incineroar, go for the Intimidate, have that fake out going forward, particularly as these Trick Room turns are starting to kind of come to an end. You want to be able to try and get in a position where you can maybe set it up again. We know Stack Attacker is a Pokemon that also runs Trick Room, so Brian does have the utility to get it set up again. And you can see the seconds are really going down here. Oh, is he able to lock it in? I'm not sure.
That's coming down to just a split second here, so we're gonna have to see how it plays out to see if it was a timeout or able to get it in just in time. The Shedinja, though, going to be swapping out. There's actually going to be a double swap on Joe's end here. Weavile joined the field next to that Kyogre, so looking to keep the Shedinja nice and safe, and Serena for a potential swap in later. Of course, Kyogre coming in means it's going to bring this rain with it. Rock Slide going to be coming out. Don't remember that's what it was going to go for the target. Missing the Kyogre, but is going to hit into that Weavile, and is going to be taking that out on the swap in.
I believe that was a timeout, because I'm pretty sure I saw Brian lock in the Gyro Ball going down into what was the Kyogre slot, but Amoonguss is at least able to go for the Spore here, going to be able to put that Kyogre to sleep as soon as it joins the field, and particularly with Trick Room turns ending in this particular situation, that's exactly what Stack Attacker needs. You know, it doesn't want to take a potential Scald here in the rain, you know, even with the chance of burn, but it's just going to hurt that Stack Attacker. It can get all the defense boosts it wants, but as, you know, Kyogre and special attacker, it's not going to have to worry about that too much. If you're a Amoonguss here, though, you're going to want to try and help out your partner Pokemon trying to get up a Trick Room, and Joseph having the utility to bring the Weavile into the fray here, going for that fake out just to burn a turn of sleep for that Kyogre, give it one more chance to wake up, can be great here for Brian. Of course, Kyogre with the full HP could also go for something like a Water Spout, but Stack Attacker is known for carrying Wide Guard, and that's something that Joseph does have to be wary of.
Of course, but the Sakataka having the opportunity to go, like, I mean, we just saw Trick Room expire. It does have the opportunity to go for it again. The fantastic thing about Brian having 2 different Pokemon that can set up Trick Room is he doesn't have to rely on one hitting the field and wait for it to set up again. So Sakataka having that chance to go for it, and Amoonguss going to be swapping out, bringing Incineroar out onto the field here. Kyogre, I mean, it's taking that turn of sleep. Unfortunate swap in terms of its sleeping, because it would have had the opportunity to go for something had it not been sport on the swap in, but at least the Incineroar is going to be taking the sip from the Citrina. Absolutely fantastic, but that's really going to matter as Trick Room goes back up and Brian is playing exactly where he wants to.
Yeah, and I do apologize. Stakataka is so big, I'm pretty sure I thought the Weavile was on the opposing side of the field there and not the Serena. I do apologize for that. Trick Room was relatively safe to set up. We know that Kyogre was guaranteed to take its turn of sleep, and there wasn't, albeit too much, that Serena could do. So Brian, again, in a situation where he's very happy to be in. Although Brian can't go for Fake Out, he can go for the Jarable to pick up a KO against that Serena.
And that is exactly what we're going to see here. The Sakataka just being able to deal out this damage, going to get that attack boost as well from the Beast Boost, and Incineroar going for the parting shot. I mean, the Kyogre is still asleep. It does have the potential to be waking up, but the Incineroar being able to go hide in the back and be safe means it's not going to risk getting attacked into as well. Any opportunity to be dropping the special attack on that absolute beast of a Pokemon is fantastic, and it's going to be Amoonguss coming in for Incineroar, but Kyogre is just still dozing.
Yeah, it's still taking a nap, but of course it does not want to be in this situation in Trick Room either. Shninja, however, joins the field, and you've got to remember the Focus Sash has already been broken on this Pokemon, so it is literally 1 Rock Slide away from being KO'd. And Joseph down to his last 2 remaining Pokemon, whereas Brian is looking very healthy with all 4. I think at this stage you can just go for the Rock Slides, remove that Shninja from play, and obviously keep chipping away at that Kyogre, and you can allow the Amoonguss there to go for that redirection in case that Kyogre is able to wake up, because I don't think 1 Rock Slide is going to be able to deal with Kyogre quite yet.
Not quite, and it is going to be that Rage Powder coming out here. Rock Slide, of course, not doing anything to the Shninja. Shninja does have the Sash broken, but it does have the option to still protect and stay safe. But that is a lot of damage to the Kyogre. It is going to wake up. Does get fired back with a Scald, but that is dealing so little damage into the Amoonguss. But at least it is going to pick up a bird. But I mean, with the amount of damage that Kyogre took on that Rock Slide, I mean, thanks to all of these attack boosts that the Sakataka was able to get and the Shninja out on the field, there's not really too much that could be done.
Yeah, that's the thing. Traditionally, you see Stakataka going for the defense boost, but going for the attack boost here and, you know, training your Pokemon to be able to get that was phenomenal here from Brian, just dealing so much damage to that opposing Kyogre. 1 more connective Rock Slide is going to be able to seal up this match for Brian, but it does come down to whether Rock Slide is going to find its accuracy.
No Rock Slide actually this time around, though. Shninja going for the double protect, but it's not going to matter as the Dryer Ball is going to hit into the Kyogre, looking to just pick up the KO there. And of course, it is going to find it. So it is just this little bug against the world. And I mean, Shninja can take on a whole lot. Wonderguard's absolutely fantastic. He can do fantastic things, but not in the position to be doing anything here, as Brian does have the tools to be able to take it out, especially with that Rock Slide. Yeah, it's not the most accurate, but there is multiple different ways to be dealing with it, as that Incineroar is healthy in the back, and there's no way for the Shninja to do anything. And with that, this is going to call it a day, and Brian's going to take this in a 2-1.
Yeah, phenomenal match from both these players, though. I thoroughly enjoyed that set. There were lots of twists and turns, lots of amazing clutch survivals as well. And I think particularly in this game 3, that Palkia being able to survive the double target to be able to get that first Trick Room off, I think just gave Brian that momentum that he needed to be able to deal out that good damage. Catching the Kyogre on the switching, going for that Spore, I think obviously gave him the momentum to set up that second Trick Room as well. And I think that really is where that game 3 came down to. I mean, commiserations to Joe, but Shninja unfortunately just wasn't able to save the day.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky matchup. I mean, Kyogre already struggles against Palkia, and this as well, the fact that Brian had a team that could just do so well in Trick Room, a couple different ways to be able to set it up, and then having tools to, like the Incineroar, even just the Intimidate was able to allow the Palkia to live to set up that first Trick Room, and the Sakataka being able to set it up very freely later on too. It's just a really, really difficult place for Kyogre to be. So it was well thought out, and being able to bring it to a 2-1 is still fantastic. That was a fantastic match, and I mean, just a couple things going a little differently. That Palkia not being able to survive that first turn, for example, and that could have been a really different game 3.
Yeah, exactly. Palkia surviving, and then I believe it was in game 1 or 2 where we saw Joe's Kyogre survive as well critically. You know, it really did come down to those restrictors having that extra little bit of HP to be able to survive out the game and kind of clutch out a win in the respective match for their trainers. I think as well I have to credit Brian for the way that he was able to play around that Serena, because I think when you have partner Pokemon like the Incineroar and the Amoonguss, Serena is a Pokemon that really can mess up your plans. Obviously, not allowing the fake out and then having the kind of the immunity to a lot of the grass type things that the Amoonguss wants to get up to. But I think Brian was able to play around that really well and didn't let it stop his way at all in it taking out this victory.
Yeah, of course. And it was something we saw in the game 1. It didn't stand up to the triple axle, but Brian being able to change it around, and especially how it was played, keeping it safe so it could actually start putting some pressure on with the scores is absolutely just fantastic.
Yeah, and there's even the score as well, I believe, between the United States and Ireland. It is 1 apiece. But we are only halfway through today's Saturday broadcast, so don't go anywhere, guys. I will step down and Gabby will come back in for your third match.